Hello everybody and welcome back to Operation Logistics, where we need to figure out a way to filter our coverage level, but also all of our other levels in a reasonably quick manner here. So let's go ahead and create a new function. I think this is going to be the best way to do this within the sub-hex manager. And what we're going to go ahead and do is this needs to be... Yeah, sub-hex manager is, I think, a fine place to do it. We may want to move this later on, but let's call this public void, and this is going to be something... Actually, this should be a bool. Public bool. Oh my, this is... Okay, it was at 55% instead of the 40% that I usually keep the music at. Excellent. So now that's better. Okay, so this is going to be a function that returns true or false whether the hex is currently covered by the selected map mode. Okay, so public bool get hex. I want to call this, actually, get building hex. How do I want to term this? Like, get building hex coverage for map mode? I mean, I don't really want to use coverage because that's the name of a map mode, but essentially returning whether the building hex is colored on or off for the map mode. So get building hex, I guess we could use map mode inclusion along that line, along those lines there. And I want this to be kind of genericized. So let's go ahead and pass in int3 hex, and let's also pass in map mode's map mode. I don't want to... I want to have this be fairly generic. So we'll go ahead and return false for right now. And then in the map mode, we're just going to do a switch here. And we're going to do this switch. In fact, we're probably just going to cut this switch out of here. So, do something along the lines of this. Okay, so obviously this is going to have a few issues in that this is not all generic. So that's something we're going to have to do. And we're only going to be coloring the hexes based on the return of that in the color building hexes. So we're going to use the get building hex map mode inclusion to color the meshes here. So we've got our int3 position, and we know our map mode as well. So in the color building hexes, all we have to do is say if this is going to be get building hex map mode inclusion of our int3 position, and then our hex manager dot business dot current map mode. Then all we need to do is set the overlay color to color hex default, at least for now. We might want to have this be able to color different things, like have this return a color perhaps, and then just check to see if it's a null color. I don't know if colors can be null, but something along those lines. So then we would color it this way if it's not included. So we'll just do 1.0f here. Otherwise, we'll do it at 0.5f. Okay, so now we need to go ahead and implement this get building hex map mode inclusion, which is kind of a mouthful. Let's go ahead and rename this. I don't like this name. Get hex map, or get hex map mode inclusion. We'll just drop the building out of it, I guess, for right now. But it kind of needs to be there. Get building hex map mode inclusion. I think we're going to have to go with that. So color hex default, we would, instead of doing subhexes I, that accepts a building hex there. So we're going to need to grab our building hex, right? So I mean, realistically, that would just be hex.buildinghex. So let's do that. Hex.buildinghex. Except we need this to be subhexes dot, or subhexes hex.buildinghex. What do we call that? Yeah, that works. Hex manager dot selected subhex dot biome. That's not necessarily the selected subhex we want. So hex manager dot get biome hex by index, and then we just pass in our hex dot biome. And I guess we do hex dot world hex, hex dot biome hex. Since we can't just pass in an int3 and ignore the building hex, I feel like we should be able to do that. Maybe we'll have to create an overload for that later on, but I think that's okay. So that should get us our actual hex there. But we don't technically want to color this, now that I think about this. For default, we just want to return true. And then I don't think we need the break. Okay, so if hexmanager.business.rootsj.pathint3.contains position, which would of course now be hex. Then we return true. Else bool within equals false. For int k equals 0, k is less than hexmanager.selectedWorldHex.BiomeHexes hexmanager.selectedsubhex.hexindex.neighborsI.count. Okay, that's a bit of a mouthful, but we should do hexmanager.getWorldHex by index, and this should be hex.worldHex.biomehexes, and instead of hexmanager.selectedsubhex.hexindex, this should of course be hex.biomehex. Neighbors of I, which previously was this. That's interesting. How do we want to do this? I don't actually know. So at this point, we can just return true, and then down here, we don't even need to run this if check, we can just return false, because if we got here, then that's fine, which means we don't need this bool within anymore for coverage map mode. So the only thing we have to figure out now is this I. So neighbors I, essentially we need another for loop here. For int I equals 0, I is less than, this would be subhexes.count. Subhexes.count I++. And then we'd want to run it like that. Okay. Get hex map mode, and yeah, this would of course be get building hex map mode inclusion. And then we color that hex based on that. Okay, I don't know if that's going to work or not, but that should, if it does work... Oh, we have this right here. Default should be return true for now. And then for map modes.demand... Actually, J++, unreachable code detected. Wait, what? For int j equals 0, j is less than hexmanager.business.roots.count j++. This seems weird. How is that unreachable? Is it just confused by this break? I don't think so. But for right now, we'll replace the breaks with return false. Like so. And then, of course, this code is now unreachable, which is fine. I'm just a little confused about why it thinks that this this J++ is unreachable. Oh, wait. It's because of this. So... yeah, it's because it... well, when we get through the for loop... return false down here. Okay, I need to figure out... do we have an issue with our brackets? Or is it just confused? Let's let Unity compile it and see if Unity says anything. Unity is also seeing unreachable code. Line 546, position 71. So that's the same place. Is it simply because we return in all of these cases? Oh, I bet it's because we return false here. Yes. Okay, that did the trick. So let's now hop in here and see if the coverage map mode is unchanged. Theoretically, the coverage map mode should just work. So let's go into coverage map mode right now. That's a good sign. We're going to need to purchase a piece of land, create route, and we'll hop up over there. That's not a great sign. Okay. It looks like we did in fact break the coverage map mode. So let's see here. We're in the coverage map mode. And we're in color building hexes here. So if get building hex map mode inclusion position hex manager.business.current map mode, then we color the hex default, which is fine. This is all genericized now. And we implement our map modes up in here. So we iterate through J here, which is our hex manager.business.roots.count. So if it's in the root, then we return true. Otherwise, for int I equals 0, I is less than subhexes.count, I++. If hex manager if hex manager.business.rootsj.pathint3.contains this position here, which is hex manager.selected world hex, which we need to change. This should be hex manager dot get world hex by index hex.world hex. And then our biome hexes should instead be hex manager dot get biome hex by index, which should be hex.world hex hex.biome hex dot hex index. In fact, that shouldn't be necessary, because we should be able to just pass in our biome hex, because that's a virtual hex. So we should just be able to do hex.biome hex and then neighbors ik. I don't know if that's going to fix anything. It should do the same thing under that particular circumstance. So I'm not convinced that that's going to fix it, but let's check. We have now broken our coverage mode, but time to fix it in a better way than it was implemented before. Okay, so we'll come on in here, hop into coverage map mode, route management, create route. Oh yeah, we need to purchase it. We'll buy this road, I guess. That's something we need to do something about. Don't we own this? Oh, we own this one. Okay. And yep, it appears that it's just always returning true. Okay. So, that means that this is always returning true. If hexmanager.business.rootsj.path3.contain or pathint3.contains hexmanager.getWorldHex by index hexWorldHex .biomehexes hex.biomehex.neighbors.ik. So we iterate through the list of neighbors in every hex. Hang on a moment. We need to iterate through the list of neighbors of the hex that we are considering. So hex.worldHex, yeah, okay. So we need to get rid of I here. We need to take this over, and we need to do neighbors hex.buildinghex.count. And instead of I here, this should be hex.buildinghex. Now that should fix it, theoretically. Let's see. Let's purchase this apartment complex, create a route, select the route, and we're going to head over here in coverage map mode. That looks more like it. Fantastic. So now we can see that we can get our coverage up over here, we can get our coverage up over here, we can take this guy over here to get our coverage going there, we can then head over here, and then over here, and then over here, and we can get most of the coverage. There's a few apartment complexes over here that we don't get, but if we go there and there, we can get almost all of them. In fact, if we just go to the exits in all of these locations, we can get all but a couple. Yeah. Okay, well, now that our coverage map mode is working once again in a more generic fashion, it is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and next episode, we will start working on filtering that up, now that we actually have the ability to do that in a generic fashion through the biome and world hexes. Subscribe for more, and I will see you all next time.